This segment's interesting. This is about the Remington R51. And Jacob, let's discuss it.
All right, we are talking about the Remington R51, and why is it just gone?
Now, this is a 9mm pistol.
It is. It was.
It still is. I mean, there's pictures of it on the internet, so it must be real.
Now, this was the first new handgun, with little quotations around the word new, that Remington had developed on their own in quite some time.
Yes, long time. Maybe since the XP 100. Yeah, it could be.
I mean, you had a bolt-action pistol in the 60s.
Yeah.
And now you've got a semi-auto in January of 2014, which was introduced. Basically, there was a press event for Remington at the Gunsight Ranch. And the Remington R51 was shown and presented, and there was 2 pistol examples there for the press to use and fire and give the reviews of.
Okay.
The reports then were basically all positive, how the feel of the gun was excellent. It's Remington's new wonder gun.
Oh, yeah. Everybody was writing about it.
Oh, everybody was just out of their minds excited about this new gun.
The print sheets looked stained with drool.
Yeah. The accuracy and reliability of the gun was superb. We even, on our show here, we talked about it back then as...
Sure we did.
Remington's got a new handgun, and it's not a 1911.
Yeah. Because they are doing a very good job with their 1911s.
They are.
They're beautiful.
Now, this was possibly in the runnings to become that new handgun that changed the market.
Right.
A
new American-made gun. It was good to see. And it wasn't polymer.
Exactly.
You know, it had a mix. So it was pretty interesting.
At the SHOT Show in January, the guns... let's just say this. Before SHOT Show begins, there's a press day. And there's a day at the range for all the press to come out and see all the new guns and use them. Well, Remington forgot to bring the R51.
Oh. Little question mark pops up.
Right. So, they had it finally there at the show for people to hold, and people loved the feel of it. Well, then people started ordering them. The customers started receiving them, and the problems started to begin. Reviews came back in from all the customers. Problem here, problem there. Okay, maybe it's a couple. Well, what happens is all the reports. Triggers were awful. Slides were so rough it was even hard to rack the gun. And the guns just would not function properly. Whether it be the springs in them, the blowback action, the guns would stovepipe when you'd have jammed rounds. It just was problem after problem. Now, when they started bringing them into the gun shop saying, hey, what's wrong? Broken parts in the guns. Then they discovered guns being shipped from the factory with parts missing.
Huh. That's negligence. Who owns this company, Remington?
Freedom Group owns this one also. So
plot thickens.
Careful, they own Marlin too.
Yeah.
So
I like
don't
old
screw
Marlins.
up those lever actions.
I like old Marlins.
All right.
But anyways,
so you've actually got factory assembled guns coming in with missing parts or assembled wrong. Oh, you need a firing pin? Oh,
what a
stuff like that.
What a nightmare! Can you imagine if you were the PR person for this company?
Basically, that's what happened. This became a publicity nightmare for Remington. So is the
gun even made the cover of most of the magazines.
Exactly. Your gun was on the cover of Guns and Ammo.
Wow.
And it comes out as a flop.
Wow.
Now,
it's kind of like build them, they will come.
Here's my editorial comment on this.
Okay.
This might be one of those times where modern technology has worked against the manufacturers. All right? We've got access to Facebook, YouTube, blogs. Anything basically allows the user to be a critic of the firearm.
Yes.
I can do a video of a phone in 5 seconds to tell you if I like it or not, let alone 30 minutes of firing a gun at the range and tell you how good it works or how bad it works.
Right.
So, we even had a guy come up to us at a gun show and wanted to know if we knew anybody that had Dragon's Breath ammo because he wanted to videotape shooting his iPhone with Dragon's Breath because he hated it so much, and post it on a blog about how he disliked the phone.
How he hates iPhones.
And that's just stuff. iPhones are much less than the price of a handgun.
Well, some are.
So you see what I'm saying? There's people spend this amount of money on a handgun expecting it to work right, and especially when all the media has come out saying it's such a great gun.
Now, people, let's just remember this. Let's put it in perspective. People buy a handgun expecting it to be there forever, something they can probably hand down,
right?
Unless you buy a High Point. But anyways, that's a joke. But anyways, if you're buying an iPhone, you understand it's going to be antiquated in 24 months.
Exactly.
So, but you're still going to spend between $1 and $600 on that phone. But you expect it to wear out. You expect it to become antiquated. You don't buy a gun expecting it to become antiquated or not work. You expect it to work and become an antique one day.
It's a machine. Machines don't wear out.
They shouldn't wear out unless you personally wear it out by shooting it too much. But that's a true rarity. So this is upsetting. I never want to have to invest. I look at guns as an investment. I don't want to buy a gun and then have it not work. There's no reason to have it. I didn't buy a prop. So
here's another question.
Okay.
Does the old game played by the gun manufacturers and their industries?
What do you mean by that? The old gameplay. Does
the old game that's played by the gun industries still work? This is saying if we get gun writers to talk about these guns, does the word of
somebody from Guns and Ammo.
Exactly.
If Patrick Sweeney wrote about it, it must be great. Or John Sundra or Millick, any of these writers. Well, when it boils down to is, I guess that's why I don't buy a lot of things when they're brand new. I want to know what's going on because we thought about getting a set of these. We were going to try to order a set that were consecutive serial numbers for Jake and I. And it's one of those ones that I'm glad we didn't. I'm glad we'd have a return to manufacturer receipt in our hands.
Yeah,
and probably nothing else.
So what happens now if you have one of these guns?
Well,
if you do, we'd love to hear from you.
Yes, we would.
To hear about your reports with the gun. But what Remington's doing right now, if you have one, you can call Remington. Return your handgun to them. They will send you a brand new one with 2 extra magazines and a custom fit Pelican firearms case for this gun.
Really? That's quite a how would I say it? You had a bad date with a girl and you try to make it up by roses and
2 extra magazines in a Pelican case.
Yeah, there you go. That's a pretty nice
please
makeup.
Come back tomorrow.
Yes. We'd love to have you back at Remington.
So this happened earlier in the year, and the reports were the new R51s would be rolling off the shelf sometime in October and November.
Yeah, it's almost January.
Well, it's almost January, and we haven't seen anything new.
Haven't heard anything
yet.
Either.
But this is the saying Remington has for the new Remington R51s. You ready?
Yes.
The new R51 will be of the same exceptional quality as our test pistols, which performed flawlessly.
Really? Well,
so what happened?
A lot of times they always blame it on the ammo, but this time they use Remington ammo.
Yeah.
So it's their own problem.
So they are saying the new handguns will be the same quality as the original test pistols, which performed flawlessly.
Very interesting. Good reporting, Jacob. Thank you. That's a good report.
So
we all hope
we'll wait and see if the R51 ever comes back.
And that's a good question. Will it come back?
Will it?
No,
it's kind of hard to recover from something like this because the name's tarnished. Oh, you've got like the XDS. Remember the XDS had those problems early on?
XDS was
every gun had to
the
be
market
sent
by
back.
storm, and I mean, look at the other problems Remington has though. They've got the largest recall ever in gun history.
That's right.
On their Model 700 bolt-action rifles.
Model 700 bolt-action rifles are recalled due to the triggers.
Millions of these guns.
Which is part of also a lawsuit because the guns go off mistakenly when the bolt is closed.
Right. And, this has been on the news for 20 years.
Yeah, and they're just finally recognizing.
They've been dealing with it for 20 years, bring them in and they'll fix them. And they do that at Williams.
They do.
Williams is an authorized service center for Remington, so they do that work there. So, and I know that, when they get them through there, I'm sure they'll be fixed properly. But if they're fixing something, it's kind of like the recall on the airbags on the cars, I don't want to see anybody at Remington do Harry Carey and,
Does this recall my Remington 600? Does it cover that?
I don't think 600 had the same troubles.
Okay.
But
different mechanism, and
that was the 60s. They built things right back then. But the Model 700s, the trigger systems, some people love them, some people hate them. Some people go to the range and only put a chamber in that or around in that chamber when their gun is pointing at the target. But if you're hunting with it and carrying it in the woods, there's some horror stories about that.
There are.
But just about anybody can tell a horror story about a 30-30 as well.
That's right.
A Winchester 30-30. My thumb slipped and it went off. I've heard that story 100 times. My own brother shot his own Ford Country Squire station wagon with his 30-30 by accident. Could have swore I pulled 7 rounds out of that gun. Well, mistakes happen, and I understand. With gunfire, you get excited, you're out doing stuff, and what do you do? What do you do? So, anyways, well, we got to go to commercial break again. So, let's go to commercial break. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Ready for a Gunsmith Show commercial break?
We are.
Fill up your coffee. We'll be right back.
Hey.